Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Can you hear me? So let me share. Okay. No. So welcome, everybody. We're gonna wait a few minutes for everybody to join. Okay. So we're just gonna wait a few minutes and we will start. Okay, we're gonna wait one more minute and we will start. Okay. Okay, so let's start. First of all, thank you, thank you everybody for joining today. I hope you're having a great evening. Um, the reason for which we're doing these events is because we see there's a huge demand for automations in companies in especially in Europe, US, and the UK. So we decided to do these events where we usually meet several companies per week and we understand what are they looking for, we understand their pain points, and we also understand we get a grasp of what they're looking for and what struggles they're having when initiating with AI projects. Okay, there's a lot of noise regarding companies not being able to get a good ROI from AI, but I think it's those companies that are setting the incorrect goals. Fortunately, I think that's happening in the US, where success is measured by the number of tokens used. I think we're a little bit different here in Europe, and so here I do think companies are being way more smart in terms of how they can actually use this in a way that is cost effective, in a way that is sustainable, and in a way that they respect the privacy of their clients. Okay, so we decided to do these events. The idea of these events is to get people to know the different features that different tools are rolling out and that are being quite useful for companies and for teams to use. Okay. So before starting, I wanted to share a few ground rules for this session. First of all, I would like to know where are people joining from. So I would kindly ask you to share through the chat where are you joining from to this event, okay, to this workshop. In my case, I'm joining from Spain, so I'm currently right now in Canary Islands. It's a little bit hot, so I'm actually sweating. I would rather be, in the mountain or in the beach, but we're here, and I hope that we can make the most out of it. Okay, so I'm actually joining from Spain. Let's see, where is everybody joining from? UK. So we have people from Spain, UK, lovely, France, nice, UK, Germany, lovely. I'm going to Germany next week. Austria, cool. London. Yes, I think London 30 degrees and above. Yeah, here in Canary Islands is not that warm in terms of temperature. It's just the humidity. It's a little bit annoying, but it's okay. Cool. So we have people from the UK, Germany, Austria, Spain, France. Great. Next week, next week in Germany, we're having a huge event, which is the NA10 party. Okay, NA10 is a huge automation company which is doing great, and companies are getting on board quite quickly. I don't know if there's any spots left, but I would encourage you to actually go to this event. It's a party, but it has taken a lot of traction. So you have people coming from outside all parts of Europe, and NA10 is a very important company when it comes to automation. Okay. So another ground rule that I wanted to share is please be nice and respectful to everybody, which almost always everybody is. Also, I would encourage you to ask any questions that you might have through the chat, and I will try to answer you as soon as possible. Also, I wanted to give a heads up with Claude. Sometimes it makes mistakes. Sometimes it's a little bit verbose, but we will try to do our best. Okay. And finally, I would appreciate if you like and subscribe the channel, but of course that's totally optional. I would really appreciate it. Okay. So let's start. So why is the cloud ecosystem becoming so important in Europe right now? Okay, so cloud is a very powerful tool. It has been for a long time. In the US, it's very trendy. But a few months ago, companies in Europe, at least when we were meeting with them, they were not so convinced, especially due to the lack of the fact that Anthropic hadn't understood that corporate world was very important for them. And in Europe, if you want to win the corporate world, you want to be cost effective and you want to be secure and robust. Okay. What's happening right now? I think Anthropic has understood that if they want to win in the EU, but also UK, they have to be mindful about privacy. They have to be mindful about our different regulations. They have to be mindful about how to make sure that they're cost effective, but also that I think they're being mindful in understanding that they need to set up good partnerships in the EU. Why is this important? Because most of the companies in the EU, they're implementing AI through vendors, okay, or through service providers. And so Anthropic has released a huge partner program, and they've invested a lot of money, and they've made it quite accessible and quite open-minded for partners from all around Europe to join their partner program, which is amazing. Okay, so when I compare Anthropic to other companies, which I'm not going to mention, Anthropic is being way more open, way more transparent, and way more oriented to the partner to succeed in achieving, in getting to know the platform, in getting to certificate themselves as a partner. And so I think they're doing a really good job in extending their influence through the service providers in Europe. Okay, so I think they're really doing a good job. Actually, we went to an event of cloud partners recently, and 50% of the event attendees were from Europe. So that's great. That means that they're having an impact in Europe, and as the service providers, as all these AI agencies start learning about Anthropic, they will start recommending more Anthropic to their clients. Okay. They're also starting to to implement safety, reliability, and governance features for their system. So recently, we've learned that Cloud Code, which can be run locally, can now run local models, which is a huge advantage for companies. Okay, so I think they're doing a really good job in understanding that they need to also win in Europe, and they need to also have an influence with the service providers in Europe. Okay, looking ahead, we see that companies at the beginning were so concerned about privacy, but they've realized that they cannot stop their team members from using Claude. They cannot stop the fact that they cannot change the fact that people want performance, people want to do cool stuff, and privacy. It was actually keeping companies from doing relevant things. Okay, so big companies are having a hard time because decision makers want to move forward with the technology, but usually when you have the headquarters are in Germany, we know that can be a pain for the company. Whereas in Spain, we were sitting with a lot of companies that at the beginning were concerned about privacy, and now they're, screw it. Our CTO has to make it work, but we're going to use this technology whether you want it or not. Okay, and also with Copilot. So at the beginning, everybody was sticking to Microsoft Copilot. Right now, we're seeing that all those companies that were sticking to Microsoft Copilot, they're understanding that Microsoft Copilot is not as powerful as they want to. So they're starting to train their team members in Claude and ChatGPT and NA10. Okay. And so what are the tools that we see that are more useful for the day-to-day of these companies? I know that Claude Code has a lot of hype right now, but I would say Claude Code is very powerful for a person that's a little bit technical. If you're not a person that's technical, I would say that Claude Code can be a little bit complicated and a little bit uneasy to work with. Whereas Claude Cowork, Cloud Skills, and Cloud Design can be very powerful, but also very accessible to a non-technical audience. Okay, so it can be, when we do the trainings, we see way more engagement when we're talking about Cloud Cowork or Cloud Skills, even though they might be a little bit less powerful than Cloud Code. But these tools are actually accessible for any person working in a company, even if they're not a technical or an engineer person. Okay. So the tools that we're going to see today is so one of them is Claude Cowork. Claude Cowork is let's say it's an orchestrator of Claude that will allow you to streamline processes and work with files, emails. It's like a virtual copilot that will assist you in doing tasks of doing administrative tasks faster. Okay, but it's really powerful. So we're going to see a few examples where we're going to see that it can speed up a lot of what you do in a day-to-day basis. Okay, then we're going to see Cloud Skills. For me, Cloud Skills is like ChatGPT's agents on steroids. So Cloud Skills, it's about doing a process, but doing it really well, and doing it in a way that you can connect with different tools, implement guardrails, set a model, connect to, to dynamic MCP servers. So Cloud Skills is about doing a process, but doing that process really, really well. Cloud Skills, for me, it's probably one of the most powerful tools that you have right now in the market, especially from a corporate perspective. Okay, and we're also gonna see Cloud Design, which, by the way, we're gonna see it first. Cloud Design is a new Anthropic feature, which I don't know if you have tried it already, but it's amazing what you can do. And we're going to see a few examples of what can be done with Cloud Design. Okay, and it's quite accessible. And I'm actually going to share a link so that you can try it for a week for free. Okay, cool. So let's start. Before starting, I just wanted to mention that Cloud can be a little bit verbose at times. Okay, so I hope that you can have that in consideration. And sometimes Cloud tends to overkill the response, so I need to actually guardrail. I need to put Cloud on a short leash. But we're getting better at that. And when you use a simpler model like Haiku, and you make sure that your prompt is well defined, you can actually control it better. Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to see is Cloud Design. Okay. So Cloud Design, I would like to know through the chat who has already tried Cloud Design. So can you put in the chat whether if you have tried Cloud Design or not, please? I don't know if you can put it through the chat. So not yet. So we have people. So 1 second. No, not great. Okay, so that's good, because then it's easier for me to impress you. Okay, so Cloud Design, it's a new feature that Cloud has released that allows you to develop and let's say draft different types of wireframes, different types of designs, but also relevant things like brand kits, or imagine you're setting up a company, which I know a lot of people are thinking about not working for anybody else anymore, also because the job market is nuts. And so Cloud Design is amazing, because you can do logos, which, by the way, before it would cost you money, or you will have to go to Fiverr to get that done. You can do prepare all your brand kit for your brand, so you can prepare all the LinkedIn banners, your YouTube banners, the typography, the logos, the favicon. So it could really accelerate setting up a look and feel for your company. Okay, so I'm going to start with a simple example. Okay, so a few months ago, I published a book a few years ago related to expats moving to Madrid. Okay, so Madrid is a very interesting city in Spain. It's picking up, as a big city. And we had a lot of MBAs from the US, from London, wanting to move into Barcelona or Madrid. Okay, but I actually used to live in Madrid. So I designed, I published a book a few years ago, and I wanted to redesign the cover of the book. Okay, so what I did is in Cloud Design, I shared with Cloud Design a few examples, so you can upload in Cloud Design a few examples of covers that you actually like, and then I asked Cloud Design to prepare a few drafts of covers for my book. Okay. So Cloud is very good in providing you different examples, and then you can actually ask Cloud to edit these examples, but you can actually edit it on Cloud. So imagine you have these designs and you say, okay, so let's see this example. You can actually go here to edit, select here the specific design, and actually start modifying. 1 second. Simple. Start modifying the different covers that you have. Okay, in this case, it doesn't allow me to pick up step by step, but I can actually go to another example. So I can go here to Better Merck. This is another example, and I can actually edit the typography. I can edit the different elements of the design that Claude has prepared for me. Okay. Another way in which you can use Cloud Design is to create the brand kit of a of a potential brand that you're preparing, right? So in this case, we wanted to design a brand kit, having the identity, having the set of colors, the typography, the different icons, the different favicons, logos, banners, etc. And so you can actually ask Claude to give you a few examples, out of which then you can ask Claude to modify it in Canva. Okay, so I can actually then go to Canva and start modifying my designs in order to have my brand kit for my new brand. Okay, so you see that we have the logos, we have the typography, we have the banners for the web, for the LinkedIn. Okay, before, creating a whole brand kit would cost you, in Spain, which is very cheap, it would cost you at least 500 euros. Maybe going to Philippines or to Asia, it would cost you less. But if you wanted something with quality, or if you wanted to actually, iterate through your designs, you would have to pay and overpay. For me, being able to do this in less than half an hour and have the whole brand kit is a huge advantage. You can actually modify it with Canva or with Figma, okay, and save a lot and actually have quality designs being done for you. Okay, so I hope that you can try it. I think cloud design is really cool, and you can do several. You can do things. You can design covers. You can design logos. You can design the brand kit. You can design your website. Okay, and so I'm going to share with all of you a voucher through the chat so that you can claim 1 week for free of cloud design. Okay. So this is cloud design. I'm going to start with Claude Cowork, because I think there's a lot to see about Claude Cowork and Cloud Skills. But if anybody has any questions about cloud design, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm usually pretty accessible, so it's quite easy to connect with me. If you want, I'm just going to share my LinkedIn through the chat, and I hope that we can stay in touch. Okay, LinkedIn, cool. So let's continue. Cloud Cowork. Okay, so Cloud Cowork, as I mentioned, is like a helpful colleague that will assist you in doing administrative tasks on your day-to-day basis. Okay, so one thing that I tried at the beginning when I was using Cloud Cowork is, hey, I don't know if this has happened to you, but we all have that email account where we have a lot of noise and garbage. Okay, so it's an account that we've had for several years. We probably have a lot of newsletters. We might have all a lot of promotions. We might be enrolled in several promotional emails and different newsletters. So for me, being able to use Cloud Cowork to actually fetch the different subscriptions that I have in my email, to make sure that I can actually unsubscribe to those that I'm not, I don't find any use anymore. So you can use Cloud Cowork. You can connect it with your Gmail account. Okay, so I can go here, connectors, connect it to my Gmail account or to my Outlook account. We can also set permissions to make sure that we can never, Cloud is already very careful with that, but you can also set permissions to make sure that you never do something outrageous with your email. Okay, and then I can put this prompt where I'm asking Claude to provide with a list of any promotional emails in my Gmail account from the last 30 days, and would like to have a simple table so that I can understand which of these subscriptions I can actually unsubscribe without me noticing it. Okay. Here, when we're doing this type of task, this is not an advanced task. So if you want to be mindful, you want to use Haiku, and you want to use, you don't want to use advanced reasoning. This is a very simple task. A simple model can do it. You don't need to use the most advanced model for simple tasks. That's an overkill, and that's going to overuse your tokens and make you enjoy less time your cloud subscription. Okay, so if I do like this, basically what's going to happen is that probably it's going to ask me for permission to access my Gmail account, unless I've already given all the permissions, okay? And then what's gonna do is gonna go to my Gmail account, get all the emails from the last 30 days, and identify all the different subscriptions that we have, okay? So let's see what we get from it. Cool. So here you see we have all the subscriptions that I have. And I actually, in some of them, it's providing me the link to unsubscribe. Okay. So this is very useful to run it every now and then, because for instance, Jomo community, lovely community, but I'm not using it anymore because I'm not in Madrid. So it might be worth it for me to just unsubscribe to this community. And you see that the link works. And ideally, we want to unsubscribe and reduce noise in my inbox over time. Okay. So this is a very simple use, but for me, it's very useful because you receive a lot of noise in your day-to-day. And this one, it's is an easy usage of Claude Cowork that would allow you to reduce noise in your inbox. Sorry. The next example that I want to show you is for those of us that we have our own company or we're entrepreneurs. We probably feel that processing all our invoices, it's a little bit annoying, and we have a lot of tools nowadays that you can just connect these tools to your Gmail account and make sure that these are processed. But sometimes I just have a huge mess in my downloads folder with all the invoices that I have. Okay, so if I open my downloads folder, let's see it. Okay, I have so many invoices. It's crazy, it's nuts, and sometimes I just want to organize them accordingly. Okay, so Claude Cowork can actually connect to your computer. You can actually define to which folder it can actually make modifications or not. Okay, and here what we're going to do is basically we're going to say, hey Claude, we want you to go to our downloads folders. We want you to scan which tickets do we have, which invoices do we have, and we actually want to have a clear table and organize them fast. Okay, so we're going to ask Claude to access our computer, specifically our downloads folder. I think Claude will ask me for permission. Let's see if we get, or maybe we already, okay, so he's asking for permissions. Okay. Sometimes it might, 1 second. I think it's having a hard time identifying the folder. Now it has identified the downloads folder. You could actually configure this for Claude to go faster, but usually I try to constrain a lot what Claude can do in my computer. Again, sometimes Claude wants to overkill its actions. You sometimes need to put it on a short leash and make sure that you're doing the task. Okay, so we're gonna allow it. Let's see. So what Claude is doing right now, it's accessing my downloads folder. It's scanning the different files, and we're trying just to get a clear view. Okay. So there's a question that is very interesting about privacy. How comfortable are you giving access to AI to so much private information? Gmail could also have lots of sensitive information like finances, identity. Okay, so this question about privacy, I think in general, these platforms, you're going to have to give, if you want them to be useful, you want to give them a little bit of access. Maybe you want to control how much access they have. In my opinion, for me, Claude knowing that I have an invoice from OpenAI, to be fairly honest, I don't really care. I'm not a guy. I'm a guy that I don't have an issue with privacy. I have an issue of time, and so for me, it's a balance. It's true when we're working with companies, we have to work in a different manner, and we might use local models. We might use Cloud Code with local models. So there are alternatives, but they're less powerful. Okay. Also, Cloud allows you to set boundaries on which folders it can access or which folders on your Gmail account it can access. Okay. So, there are ways to make sure that you're not providing more information that you would want. But in my opinion, I don't really care that Cloud knows about my invoices, to be fairly honest. In my case, Cloud only has access to my downloads folder. And in my Gmail account, it's true that it has access to a lot of information, but you can actually constrain the level of access that Cloud has, or maybe just have an email connected to Cloud where you don't have sensitive information. Okay. It's true that when working with companies, we have a different approach. When working with companies, we try to make sure that there's a governance model, that we have local models, and that tasks can be automated with n8n. We will actually rather automate it with n8n. Okay. Somebody's asking, why are you doing a webinar in English but your Cloud is in Spanish? I apologize. I'm Spanish. My day-to-day is in Spanish. We do these events in English, and in general, we don't have any complaints about that. But I can use the website, which is in English, I think. But to be fairly honest, the full power of Cloud can be used in the application. Okay. But you can use Claude Cowork in English. You can use Claude Cowork in any language. In my case, I do my day-to-day in Spanish, but the prompts are also in Spanish. Some things, in English. These prompts are in English. And we will try to improve that for the next session. It's true that my day-to-day is done in Spanish. That's why we have it that way. Does the invoice always have to be named invoice or inf, or can it detect another way? I think it will detect invoice and receipt. Okay. But if you ask it to scan all the PDF files, it can identify any file that is not an invoice and assume that it's an invoice. Okay. But so you can set the parameters to which you are asking Claude to scan and skim these files on the downloads folder. Okay. For instance, something that I usually do is get all the invoices or get all the PDF files in my folder and organize them to see which are invoices, which are contracts, and then put them in folders. Okay. Cool. So here we have a list of invoices. We have the amount, we have the dates. Okay. We could actually ask Claude to sort these invoices and organize them in folders accordingly. Okay. So Claude does a really good job on helping you do that. Let's see another example. So let's see, organize a messy folder. So this is another example where we're identifying all PDF files and we want to organize them by types such as invoices, resume, contracts, and show a table. Okay. So we're gonna execute this one. So I'm gonna open a new Claude Cowork. We're gonna use Haiku also because we don't want to overkill it. And this one, basically what's gonna do is gonna go to my downloads folder and identify what different types of PDFs do I have, and maybe create an index so that I can understand what do I have there. Which are contracts, which are invoices, which are guides. Okay, so there's a lot of files here. I'm afraid that I'm gonna use my limits. Let's see how am I doing. Okay, it's not that bad. So let's see. You see, so here, Claude is able to actually understand regardless the name of the file, it's able to understand what types of documents do you have without much skimming. Okay. So here we have, forms, tax statements, meeting and event notification, subscription notices, invoice, job descriptions. Okay. So we have here a clear view of what types of PDFs we have in our downloads folder. Okay. You could actually then ask Claude to organize them accordingly. So let's see another example that I actually like a lot, which is using Claude with Apify. Who knows what Apify it is? Okay. Can you put in the chat if anybody has used Apify? Is this tool that I'm going to show you right now? Let me know who has used Apify. Never heard of it, not yet. Lovely. Okay, so Apify is a very interesting tool. Okay, is the kind of tool that big corporations at the beginning are very reluctant to use, but then we're usually talking to the CTO, to the director of innovation, a person that might be a little bit more commercial, and they're dying to use it. Okay, so what is Apify? Apify is a tool that allows you to go to almost any of the most common platforms that we use in our day-to-day: LinkedIn, Amazon, Meetup, Trustpilot. A lot of tools are there, and you're able to scrap information from that website. So Apify is very powerful when it comes to going to LinkedIn, getting information from different posts, and actually giving you details of that without putting in jeopardy your LinkedIn account. Okay. So how does Apify work? So in Apify, when you have an account, and actually I'm going to share with you a link so that you can create an account with a discount, you can decide where do you want to go. So maybe we have a client in the US and they want to access Amazon, but they don't want to put in jeopardy their Amazon account, and they want to use Apify to scrape information about the products of the competition, and they want to understand what do people like from these products of the competition, what are people saying in their reviews. So Apify will be the tool that they use. Okay, or imagine I get information from LinkedIn to see which companies are actually hiring, and I don't want to be doing that manually, and I want Claude to give me a analysis every day. I will use Apify not to put in order to not to put my LinkedIn account in jeopardy, because LinkedIn, Amazon, they are profoundly anti-robots, so they don't only allow you to use their official API, which is usually very limited. Okay, so Apify is super interesting, and you can use it for a lot of tools. So you can use it with Google Maps, Meetup, and it allows you to fetch data and do it without using your account. Okay. So in this case, what's happening is that we have our Claude account connected to our Apify account, and we can actually ask Claude to use Apify to go to LinkedIn and fetch information about the posts related to a specific topic and give me an analysis about that. Okay, so let's see if this works, because sometimes it doesn't identify Apify correctly, but hopefully we will have some information here. Okay, so let's see. So it's identified the connector to Apify. Okay, and now it's gonna ask Apify to go to LinkedIn, search for a topic, which is the rise of local models. Okay, ideally now we're going to see how the actor is running. So we see that the actor is actually running. So Claude has connected correctly to Apify, is going now through LinkedIn and searching about topics related to local models. Okay, the rise of local models. And so ideally we want to get who published something about that, the level of engagement, number of likes, comments, reposts, and rank that information. Okay. So, there's a question and I didn't answer it. I'm sorry. So, how do you know which model to use per type of request? Is there any sort of table somewhere with a correspondence between the type of request and recommended model to use to save tokens? This is a great question, because token efficiency is very important. Okay. Right now, I know the difference between the models. So I know, how powerful is Sonnet, how powerful is Haiku, how powerful is Opus, but you can actually ask each model to explain to you when to use each model So you can go to Claude and say, hey, Claude, what model should I use for this specific task? For me, it's the level of reasoning that we need, okay? When we're organizing data, when we're fetching data, we don't need a high level of reasoning. So you can use Haiku. Haiku is way efficient and it consumes way less. So you can use a lot of Haiku without your limits hitting fast. Opus consumes super fast, and it's not that it's gonna be way more smarter than Sonnet. Okay, it's gonna be good for complex analysis. It's gonna be good for complex coding. But to be honest, 90% of normal coding you can do it with Sonnet. Okay, so I think also companies like Anthropic allow you to compare models in their documentation. Okay, it's a little bit difficult to understand. In my opinion, the best way is to ask each model, to ask Claude which model would it use to each specific type of task. In my opinion, for advanced reasoning, I would use Sonnet or Opus. For data transformation, I would always use Haiku. For simple tasks, Haiku. For low-level reasoning, Sonnet, low effort. So there's a lot of, you have to play around a little bit and get used to trying different things and see what works better. But I would always say that when it's a simple task, never use Opus. Always use Haiku 4.5. Okay. So we see the different people that have published about this topic, and we can also see the level of engagement that they have received about this topic. Okay, and this basically what's happened is that Claude has called Apify, and Apify has gone to LinkedIn and scraped that information directly from LinkedIn. And you can do this with jobs, with posts, with information from companies. So we're actually helping people to scrap information from jobs and then go to Glassdoor and get information about the satisfaction of people in that company to target better the job application process. Okay, so we do that with a specific network of young people that want to find better jobs. Okay, so Apify is a very important tool. I'm going to actually share with you a link to get Apify for free. Okay, you can get $5 for free every month, which is important. When you use it, you need to choose correctly the price of the actor. So you need to choose the actors that have a decent pricing. If not, it's very easy to hit the limits. But if you choose wisely, you can actually use almost every day Apify without hitting your limits. Okay. Cool. Let's see another example. I'm going to jump to a different type of example, which is, okay, cloud routines. Okay, so I'm going to run to an example that I want to see before we jump into skills, which is routines. Okay, so cloud routines. I don't know who has tried already cloud routines. I don't know if anybody has tried it. Can you put it on the chat? Who has tried cloud routines? Okay, so what does cloud routines do? Cloud routines allows you to set scheduled tasks for cloud to run automatically. Okay, and there's two ways of running it: in the cloud and in your computer. Okay, in the cloud you have a limit of 5 executions per day, I think. Whereas when it comes to running cloud routines in your computer, I think it's called cloud schedules also. And that is you're not gonna have any limits. But it's important that your computer is actually turned on and with the internet. Okay. And basically what you can actually do is set specific tasks. Okay, so you can actually program it. Let's edit this task where you can explain to Cloud to which connector does it need to connect, to Gmail, to Calendar, to Apify, and what information it needs to provide. Okay, and when does it need to run? So you can schedule where does it need to run and which tools can it use. Okay, and which model should it use. Okay, so here actually we're using Haiku And so here, what's going to happen is that when you have set it up, you're going to have here the schedule, the scheduler and the scheduled task, and you're going to be able to see all its executions over time. So here we have it to run every day. Basically, it's a scheduled task that gives me all the priorities based on my emails, all the events that I have in my Google Calendar, and all the companies that have received funding, which I might want to target to get us new clients. Okay. So routines allows you to define a prompt that is going to explain to Claude what it needs to do, and have Claude run it every day automatically as long as your computer is turned on. You can use routines or Claude schedules with actors, with different tools, with different integrations. So it can connect to your email, it can connect to your downloads folder, it can connect to Apify. Okay. Here, for instance, I've asked Claude schedules to fetch, every Friday, all the emails that I have that are from a newsletter or a different, let's say a promotional email or a promotional like email. Okay. So here we have, and we're getting that information every week. Okay. So you can configure it to be run every week. Okay. So Claude schedules, Claude routines would allow me to combine different steps and have it run automatically every day. In which cases have I seen that this is useful? For instance, when I want to follow up on potential clients, so maybe I have a lot of proposals that I have sent, and I want to just follow up next week. Which clients do I need to prioritize to make sure that we sign the contract as soon as possible, and we can actually invoice that client, right? So we have, maybe each week we receive a list of clients that we have already sent a contract, and we just need to follow up to push the project forward. Okay. So this is very useful to prioritize, to organize yourself, and to streamline the way you work and how you prioritize in your weekly basis. Okay. So there's a question, Haiku for data processing. My usually is use Claude to write deterministic Python to execute data processing without burning tokens, without risk like hallucination. Am I missing something? So there's not a specific use for each model. So Haiku can also work for coding. Haiku can work for preparing a report. Okay, it's the level of reasoning that it changes. Okay, so if I want to do simple, and the thing is that for somebody that might be starting with code, the advanced coding, for instance, a person that's starting with code will probably not do advanced coding. So doing code with Haiku or Sonnet is more than enough. Whereas a person that's doing very complex stuff in terms of platform, instead of in cases like advanced coding with complex features and with complex programming languages, they will probably get a better use of Opus. In my opinion, the model changes on the level of reasoning, but not on the tasks that it can do. So all the models can program, all the models can structure data, etc. Okay, so it's just if I want to do a simple task, I'm not going to use Opus. So if I want to go to my downloads folder and get a list of invoices, why should I use Opus? I'm not doing something advanced. I'm just having the model go to each file and see who sent the invoice, what was the amount. You don't need Opus for that. Okay. So the next question is, can we set up Claude routines to run a job search for roles, scraping roles from different platforms? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so you can connect Apify. You can connect Apify to your Claude Cowork, account, and you can prepare a prompt where you say, hey, you're going to go to LinkedIn, scrape the jobs in the last 24 hours. You have to make sure that you do it correctly, because if not, it's going to consume. Okay, so remember that you have to use the right scraper. So you can use this one. It's very cheap. And if you do it every 24 hours, maybe instead of using 253 jobs, you will get 10, 20 every day. And that will mean that you will consume way less of your budget. Okay. So yes, you can do it. And actually something that we encourage job seekers to do. Okay. Cool. The last thing that I want to see, okay, is skills. Okay, skills is very powerful. For me, is the best feature that Cloud has. Okay, and skills basically is it's a tool, it's a feature of Cloud that allows you to prepare a procedure that can connect with different tools. Okay, and can help you to accelerate a whole process. Okay, by just using normal language. Okay, so we're going to see an example. We're going to see this case. Okay, here we have, imagine, what's the code for Apify? I will share it again. Apify. So here's the link for Apify. Okay, so let's see this skill. Okay, so basically we had a company in Spain that they had, they're a retail company and they have different shops. And every once in a while, they need to prepare the schedules for the teams. But they have a lot of requirements because some people, they need to leave early. Some others, they have children. They need to, maybe they work in the morning and the evening. And so there's a lot of rules. And in Spain, there's a lot of labor laws. So skills would basically allow me to define everything that Claude should be doing. I could add, the details of the laws, the examples of previous schedules for the shops, the details of the employees, okay? And what I could do is basically say, hey, so I can call the skill and say, prepare for me the schedules for the next 2 weeks for this okay, and so what it will do is it will apply the procedure that we have created in this skill, which is basically a procedure where we say you need to have in consideration the laws, you need to have in consideration the requisites of each employee, you need to have in consideration the rules of the leadership on how each shop needs to be, how each store needs to be organized, which hours are valley hours, which hours are peak hours. Okay, and so what's going to happen is that it will have in consideration all the procedure, and it will create all the let's say the schedules and the hours, the working hours for the team members for the next 2 weeks. Okay. So what's going to happen is it's going to create the different schedules, okay? And finally, it's going to explain to you all the rules that it has had in consideration to prepare these schedules, okay? So here we cannot have 2 employees doing lunch hours because it's a valley hour. The shops are covered 7 days per week. This person, they cannot work on Saturdays because they usually take Saturdays free. So it will tell you all the requirements that is had in consideration. Okay. Let's see another example that I like for Cloud skills, which is when preparing an interview. So we have a specific skill that will basically help me in preparing for an interview. So I can go here and I will do interview prep. Okay. And resume Harvard style. Okay, so these are 2 skills. One is interview preparation, which is a skill that will allow me to provide a job description, and it will fetch information from LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and it will help me prepare the interview with this company based on the comments from Glassdoor. Also, I've added another one, which is the resume Harvard style, which will create a Harvard-like resume for this company. Okay, So let's run this one and see how this works. You see, these are procedures where I tell Claude what does it have to do when I invoke that procedure, okay? Okay, so there's a question if the data processing, okay, so you're answering to, okay, so basically what Amara is mentioning is, so if data processing is something that you do regularly and can be deterministic, meaning that you can, for the same types of inputs, you will expect similar types of outputs. Getting Claude to build a script that does the work is better. Okay, I burning tokens. Thank you for data processing. I'm a little bit lost with this conversation, to be honest. I think we're talking about models, no, and which model to use based on each type of task. So wait, here it doesn't have a resume, but so hopefully it will, okay, so it will. Okay, so I think there's yeah, okay, so somebody's mentioning that they use Claude to write Python to execute data processing without burning tokens. Yeah, that's another usage. You can use different local model. You can use different models to create a script that will help you process data. But then if that data changes, you will need to redo that script. For me, as models get better in inferring data and working with data and working with numbers, eventually I would rather use a model than a Python script. I mean, I love Python. It's a great programming language. But, if Python is, you need to set up your inputs, your outputs. But as soon as the source of data changes a little bit in means of structure, then you need to change the script. Okay. Whereas a model, it gets the context. It's better when inferring. It's better when extracting conclusions. So I think as models get better, but especially they get efficient, and more efficient when treating with large sets of data, it will be probably better to use a model without having to use an intermediate programming language. Okay. Cool. So let's see if this skill finally gives us an output. It's taking a little bit longer than what I expected. So here we have two skills. One skill basically is applying a procedure where it will fetch information from the company, which is Liberty Mutual, based on the job description, okay? And it will fetch information from Glassdoor about the company and help you prepare the interview. And then it will use the resume generator skill to prepare a Harvard formatted resume, okay? So let's see what we get from here. So that I'm running out of time. Hopefully we will get something. Apologies that it's taking so long. It is what it is with Claude. Hopefully, we will start getting results soon. Let's see. So someone is saying, Amar is commenting, Cloud slows down when the US is awake, probably. But sometimes it's so verbose and it tries to do so much that what is actually needed. And sometimes for the same prompt, it will take double time. I in the same event, I can have different results when running the same prompt, and sometimes I just need to stop it and ask Claude to go straight to the point. Hopefully, we will get something soon. While it's generating the answer, I want to show you how the skill is actually structured. Okay, so interview prep, basically what you have is at least a procedure of what does it have to do, how does it have to gather company intelligence, which tools does it needs to do the research from, and how to prepare the Q&A pack. Okay, so it's a procedure, step by step, of what it needs to do and how to do it, and from where does it have to do it, in a way that you have a structured approach to, for instance, doing the research for a specific company before doing the interview with them. Okay. And then the other skill that we're using, which is the resume Harvard style. In this case, what we have is a skill that will explain how we generate the resume, but also we have examples, we have templates for Claude to be able to understand how the Harvard format resume needs to look like. Okay, so we provide a template, we provide some references, and here in references I have all my achievements, all the companies that I have worked for, and so that will help the skill get enough information to adapt the resume to the job description. Okay. So there's a question, did you ask Claude to write the skill? Yes. Okay. So you need to be very specific on what do you want Claude to do. So you need to be very specific, but in practice, Claude is going to write very good the skill. Okay. So Claude is going to be very efficient when writing the skill and developing the whole procedure. But you want to do, step 1, step 2, step 3. There's always a structure, and I'm going to share with you the structure once we have a lot of information here. This is too much in my opinion, but okay. Usually when you have a skill, you have a specific structure, okay? And inside the instruction file, you need to put the purpose, the trigger. So when is this skill executed? The instructions, step 1, step 2, step 3, the inputs that it needs to gather, the tools that it needs to use, the resources that it needs to fetch, knowledge bases, for instance, the outputs that you expect, the constraint, and the examples for it to do a good job. Okay. So the instruction file needs to be very detailed, but once it's done, it will save you a lot of time. We're using it a lot, and I think it can be useful. Okay. So here we have the interview preparations kit. We get the information from Glassdoor. We get the information from what to expect in the interview process, the typical timeline. So this is very useful to preparing the interview with them. Okay. And sometimes you can actually ask Claude to focus on the questions that people are reporting that are being asked in that specific in the specific processes for that type of job. Okay. And then we would have our resume that is adapted with the Harvard format for this job. Okay. In my opinion, 3 pages is too much. Maybe I will add in the skill that we never should have a resume more than 2 pages, maybe. Okay. So this is skills. There's a lot of usage for skills, and it's, as I mentioned, it's like agents on steroids. It does a really good job. Claude is doing a really good job with skills and with Cowork. Okay. And for today, I think it's enough. I hope that you have enjoyed this session. I'm going to share a few links, okay, for you to have. One link is, oops, sorry, I have. So one link is, so I'm just going to share them. Okay, here they are. So one link is to get Cloud Design for free. Another link is for you to get Appify. And another link is to follow our channel. We will do more of these events because I think Claude is rolling out constantly very interesting features. And I hope that you have enjoyed it. I hope that you can leave us a good review on Meetup. And I hope that we can stay in touch and that we can see each other on next events. Okay, we will do more events and hopefully we can have you on board. Thanks a lot and have a great evening. Thank you, everybody.